All right, guys, here we go. Another installment at the bullshit machine. Welcome, welcome, and hope you had a good week. I sort of had a weird week this week, and yeah, to all my YouTube fellowship, if you guys are watching, just waving hi to you. If you guys are listening to me on the Apple Podcast app or on Spotify, also a big hey to you. But that's cool, isn't it? You can actually watch me on YouTube as I do these podcasts because I've started recording them. And but this podcast, if you go to YouTube, you're just going to be watching my face talk and all my different facial expressions. And yeah, so that's what you're going to watch on YouTube. But if you're listening on the podcast app, you might be in your car, you might be going for a walk. Who knows what it is that you are doing? But today, on this mighty fine episode, we are talking about this idea of creating magic in our lives. How to create magic in your life. How to create magic in your life. And that might mean certain different things to you guys listening. I know what magic means to me. If I say I want to create magic in my life, I see that as as this situation where something happens that you really don't expect, and it just sort of comes out of the blue, and you sort of get this surprise, and obviously it's a good thing, and you just sort of sit back and go, oh wow, that was cool. And I sort of had one of those moments tonight, so I thought I'd share that. Well, not share that, but I thought I'd do a podcast on it because, one, I promised myself I'd release a podcast every Monday, which I'm doing, and I didn't know what tomorrow's podcast was going to land on, but it's going to land on how to create magic in your life. And I reckon I somewhat know that because it happens quite often in my life, even if I do say so myself. And so what happened this evening, I'll just quickly tell you, but I don't want to talk about myself too much, is that I'm helping these guys out who are this Facebook group called Blokes United, and it's basically this Facebook group that's all about uh, it's all about getting blokes together, Aussie blokes. If you're listening in America, obviously you might know that in Australia we call dudes and men blokes. That's like the real sort of redneck way of calling men. So it's this place is called this Facebook group is called Blokes United, and I got involved with them about a couple of months ago, and they've already got some like 20 something thousand members on their Facebook site, and they're absolutely killing it. And the magic was that and me being involved with them, they did a news clip on one of the biggest channel stations here in Australia, and I was on it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't really do anything for it, and how perfect is it that I released this yoga for dudes thing about 8 months ago, and it ties in perfectly. And I was just about to give up on this yoga for dudes thing because I was like, man, the whole marketing thing, it was just doing my head in, and I wasn't going to let it go, but I was just like, I just don't know what else to do to get this out to more men. So yeah, quite a magical moment tonight because one, I got featured on one of the news channels here in Australia, and two, it ties in perfectly with where I want to take my Yoga for Dudes program. But anyway, that's not what we're discussing tonight. What we're discussing is this idea of how magic actually comes about. How does it come about? How do you create it? And what I find, you might be able to relate in your life, but what I find in my life is that quite often I'm always trying to make things happen. Like I'm constantly trying to make things happen. And when I try and make things happen, I feel like that I'm just sort of it's like I'm comparing myself to the rest of the world. And I believe that when I compare myself to the rest of the world, it's almost like I'm closed off to even noticing that magic is happening, even if it punches me in the face. I'm still sort of closed off to it because I'm too busy focusing on what other people are doing. And so when, so this whole idea of how to actually create magic, and how to bring that about in your own life. But this thing of just trying too hard and trying to follow a path that other people are following, or trying to follow a path that just doesn't feel right. And those things where you're like, oh, I really like, part of you's going, I should be doing that, but then there's something just blocking you, and some of you might think, oh yeah, well, what's blocking you is that, you're just procrastinating. And with me, as you guys know, if you've listened to my podcast up until this point, I'm a massive procrastinator. But I don't think it is that, because lately I've really noticed that I've wanted to take action on something logical, on something that makes sense, and I've gone to take action on it, but then I'm just like, ugh, it just doesn't feel right, and I feel blocked. And then usually, so then I won't take action on it. But then what will happen is something magical just occurs. Something magical pops in that I never ever expected, and this magic is so cool, because like even tonight, being featured on this news channel, I'm like, huh? What the fuck did that come from? Like, I didn't work for it. I didn't do anything with it. They just happened to use this clip on this thing that they were doing on Blokes United, where I was all over it. And it was my head on there, and then I was doing yoga and I was talking. I'm like, oh my God, how cool is this? And so these little moments of magic that happen, it's almost like you have to accept them as magic, and it shows you that you're on the right path. But there's this real thing, isn't there, with trying too fucking hard. But if you look at the successful population, or the wider population, where people have highly succeeded, they might say that you do have to try hard, and you do have to go for it, and you have to, really, work your fucking ass off to get the things that you want. But I'm here to maybe tell you that that may not be the case. And that doesn't mean that you just sit back and wait for shit to happen. What that means is that you take action on the things that actually feel good in your heart, the things that feel good in your soul. That you take action on the things where it feels open, it feels natural, it feels like it's time to move in it, and it feels like you're, instead of trying to, you know like, move through mud to get towards it, it's more so that you're being drawn towards things. And so this is where the whole thing around logic comes in. And guys, you know what, if you disagree with me, just hit me up, and I'm more than happy to have a talk to you about it on or off air. And but this whole thing around, um you know what this whole thing around logic. So I don't reckon that magic and logic go together, because when magic happens, it's almost like everything seems totally illogical, and it seems like magic happens in life when you don't actually do anything about it. So what does that actually ignite in us? What that ignites in us, or what that ignites in me, I can't talk for you, but what that ignites in us, or sorry, in me, is that maybe all I'm meant to be doing is just going towards the things that genuinely feel right for me, going towards the things that feel natural, towards the things that I'm being drawn towards. And every time I do that in life, that's when magic, like, literally occurs. And sometimes those magical moments are quite small, and you're like, oh wow, what a cool surprise, like, what I got tonight. But then also, sometimes those magical moments can be quite ginormous. They can be huge magical moments where life changes, life shifts, where you come across people that I've got another example which this happened to me the other day, literally what 4 weeks ago. I, as many of you know, I love cold water showers and I love jumping in the ocean every day, whether it's rain, hail, or shine. And the other day, I usually go for a dip in the ocean in the mornings at around 6:30, 7 o'clock. But on this particular day, I didn't go in the morning. I went at about 2 in the afternoon. And I went down there and I was just like, you know what, I've got a bit of a break in the day in between coaching clients and in between corporate stuff. And I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go down for a quick dip, jump in the ocean. I go down for a quick dip and there's another dude that's in the ocean just standing there. I'm like, you know what? It looks like a cool dude. I'll go talk to him. Anyway, go talk to him. We had an awesome conversation. Didn't even ask each other's names. Just had a really cool conversation. And then just before we're leaving, the guy actually said to me, what do you do? And I said, oh, I work in coaching and I work in mindfulness for corporate companies and I teach corporate companies how to tap into intuition and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. I've loved our chat. It was so cool. Let's chat tomorrow and we'll see if we can pull something together. So anyway, we chatted the next day and I'm helping these guys through a 4-week contract with this guy's company. Now I see this as magical, and it's not magical because I'm getting new business. It's magical because of the way that it happened. It's just when you're in line, when you're in sync with life, you're not you're not trying. You're just basically following, and you're being who you are. You're being your true and authentic self. You're just being there, and you're just being. There's nothing to fucking try to do. You're not being anyone else other than who you are. And that's why I reckon it's so important to do work in life that you are passionate about. And some of you might go, well, I don't know what that is. But then, you know what? I would say to you, that's bullshit. I mean, what do you mean you don't know what that is? Like, okay, maybe on the surface you don't know what that is, but work it out. I mean, it's your fucking job to work it out. Like, I mean, and I'm not being an asshole, but it is. It's your job. Like, how many people in this world at the moment are sitting around going, I don't know what to do with life. I don't know what my purpose is. Well, fucking work it out. Like, it's obvious. Like, you can keep talking about how you don't know what to do, but then work it out. And I'm not saying this as someone that's preaching and because, to be honest, I haven't worked out what I want to do either. All I know is that all the things that I'm doing through the days, I'm really enjoying. And all I know is that I feel like I'm being of service to the world and I'm being of service to myself. And it feels good. Like, I mean, look, not everything I do feels awesome. Like, maybe, who knows, 60, 70% of the things I do feel really good and I genuinely love them. And then there's this other stuff which I do genuinely enjoy, but I'm not like, oh, wow, like I'm not fucking, jumping up and down about it. But then things shift around. So basically, what I'm saying here, that we're talking about magic, right? We're talking about this art of magic and how to create magic. So from my understanding and from what I've learned about life, and if I reflect on my own life, magic is created when you are in sync. And yes, how do you get in sync? You get in sync by simply not even following. It just sounds so fucking airy fairy. It's about whatever you're being gravitated towards. Let that be the thing that drives your life. Whatever you're being gravitated towards, go towards that thing. Go towards the thing that's calling you. And you know what those things are, because they are obvious. The things that you're being drawn to are obvious. You just have to ask the question, what am I being drawn to? And then take yourself towards that thing. Because the things that seem like work, the things that seem like you are pushing shit uphill and you're moving through mud to get there, they're probably not going to be the things that are going to yield you the most joy and the most fun in your life. And this is something that I constantly remind myself of, which is that when I get to the end of my life, do I want to look back over my life and go, what a cool fucking adventure that was? Or do I want to look back over my life and just be like, what a fucking waste that was? I definitely don't want that one. And so why wouldn't we go ahead and create magic? And so here's the thing, right? Is that even now, as you're listening to my voice, as you're listening to this podcast, some of you might actually be getting triggered by by what I'm saying. And some of you might be sitting there going, yeah, well, whatever, you haven't told us shit. And or who knows what you're thinking. But I reckon there would be some of you that are sort of sitting back and just thinking, well, what is this guy talking about? How do he's not telling me how to create magic in my life. And so but I am. If you really listen to the words that I'm saying, it's to create magic, is to follow your bliss. It's to follow what is calling you. And if you want a step-by-step process, I can give you a few steps that you can take right now to create magic in your life. Step one is, if you were to be full out honest with yourself, and there's no one else around you, and there's no one else that you have to impress, and there's no one else, step one, what's something that might bring you some form of joy or some form of connection to who you really are? That's step one. What's step two is, if you, and I'm sure that a lot of us can find just one thing. And if you want to push pause now, you can, and just find one thing that brings you some form of joy. What's step two? Step two is write that down. So once you write that down, great, you've written it down. And then you've got step three, you've written it down, and then you basically look at the words on the paper and you say, okay, well, what's obvious here? What's one thing I could do here to bring this into my life, or to draw myself, excuse me, to draw myself towards it? So what's one thing that this, it gravitates me towards it? And you will find it because it's obvious. It tells you what it is, and it doesn't have to be anything groundbreaking, but this is where the magic starts to begin. Even though if that thing that you've written down is quite small, if you start going towards it, you're going to see a little bit of magic unfold, because it's going to start to manifest. And then you go, wow, I saw that little bit of magic unfold. I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to follow something maybe a little bit bigger than what that other joyful thing was. And then magic just starts to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, you're living a life where you are surrounded by things that you love to do. You're surrounded by the people that you absolutely love and adore and that support you. And you're in a life where, it's still clunky. It still feels weird, and you still have shitty days, and, you're uncertain and all that. But you're in a life that you like, that you way more prefer than the life that you may have led in the past. So, guys, that's pretty much all I want to talk to you about. And this whole thing around magic, I know it exists. It exists, and I think today we've sort of just unpacked. I reckon we've unpacked how to create magic, and we've unpacked it in a way that's quite understandable, I reckon. Let's create magic together, guys. I mean, fuck, let's just do it. Let's get in there. Let's open up that can of magical worms, and let's get in there and let's go for it. And it's so cool because, you know, that's what I do. Like I try and remind myself every day something that I have to do that's going to take me towards some form of joy. And I have to do it. Whether that means for me, sometimes it's just simple as lying back and doing 15 or 20 minutes of Wim Hof breathing. That brings me a lot of joy. Sometimes it's just going, getting in the water and having a dip. Anything, but those little things bring you magic. I promise you, I guarantee you. And I know that you believe that my words are true because it's almost like you've created these words for you to listen to. And that's a pretty cool thing. And especially if you've listened to this podcast up until now, I guarantee you are about to experience some fucking magic. So there it is. Whew. I feel like I just talked nonstop for 20 minutes and 53 seconds. I think I did. Wow. Did I even take a breath? Huh. That was cool. I'm pretty sure that's what I do every time I do. I do. I think that's what I do every time I do a podcast. I just push record and I just chat. Probably should listen to this podcast because I reckon I might get some good stuff out of it. Anyway, have a good one.